20 years later, Katrina is more than a memory. It's still the yardstick for every American disaster. What single decision truly changed the outcome? Was it just wind and water, or a moment when the system itself cracked? This anniversary isn't nostalgia. It's a live stress test for what we've learned and what we've let slip back under. Smash subscribe before the next storm tests those lessons. Because one wrong move turns new maps into old mistakes. But the last word is far from written. August 28, 2005. Meteorologists in New Orleans break protocol, writing warnings designed to shake leaders awake. Less numbers, more raw consequences. Human suffering, incredible by modern standards. For the first time ever, New Orleans orders a full mandatory evacuation. The Gulf chills as families scramble and highways clog. That language, brutal, honest, is credited with saving thousands. Tap subscribe while you pack your bags, because one hard truth sometimes buys just hours before fate catches up. But no headline could blunt what came next. And what happened next would shock everyone. Katrina hits as a Category 3, but Mississippi takes a Category 5-sized surge. Past Christian and Long Beach see waves pushing 28 feet, enough to launch casinos blocks inland and swallow neighborhoods whole. Local residents still hear that roar in nightmares because the coast itself shifted. Did the world focus too much on New Orleans while the Gulf Coast quietly rebuilt its own scars? Hit subscribe before Mississippi's scorecard gets erased, because some maps never look the same again. It gets worse. For New Orleans, the catastrophe started after the hurricane's eye left. Levees and floodwalls at the 17th Street and London Avenue canals collapse. 80% of New Orleans is drowned. Water pouring in from Lake Pontchartrain. The gap between storm and citywide catastrophe was measured in feet of steel and the soil beneath those walls. Are these failures the work of nature, or design flaws rooted in city planning? Sorry for the interruption. Did you tap subscribe to keep this history above water? Because engineering errors can soak a city as surely as any rainstorm. But that's not all. Mandatory evacuation wasn't enough. Tens of thousands stayed. The Superdome and Convention Center filled with noise, heat, and fear. Helicopters swept low over rooftops, but rumors flourished as quickly as mold. Thousands waited days. Some atop their homes, some in sweltering shelters. Food and water dwindling. The Coast Guard's rescues were heroic, but long delays made the hours crawl. If you grabbed a spot on the last helicopter, would you hit subscribe before it lifts off? Because heroism matters, but it needs speed to help most. What came next was even harder. But the symbol of failure wasn't just waiting. On the 20th anniversary, Gulfport and other towns gather for somber ceremonies, laying wreaths, reading out names, singing One Mississippi. Pride and pain mix. Resilience is honored, but the cost is counted with precision. Locals keep the record without letting the pain fade. When speeches end and streets empty, what protections are truly in place? Smash subscribe if you think quieter towns need louder legacies. But memory alone can't plug every gap. And the deeper investigations changed the rebuild. Post-Katrina investigations dig deep, literally into flawed sheet piles, weak soils, and misjudged tolerances. Overtopping and poor construction allowed flood walls to crumble before their time. The harsh diagnosis wasn't just for engineers, it rewired how cities protect themselves. Adjusting blueprints does more than any press conference. If you think a stronger drawing solves risk, hit subscribe, because the blueprint may be perfect until the ground shifts. Now the defense got bigger and bolder. It gets crazier. The post-Katrina answer? The HSDR's massive levees, giant surge barriers, and behemoth pump stations. It's at the cost of $114.4 billion, meant to stop a 100-year surge. So far it's worked for later storms, but the Gulf shrinks, and subsidence and rising seas nibble away at the margins. The wall's lifespan isn't measured in concrete, but in maintenance and vigilance. Tap subscribe before complacency lets the next wave through, because a monument to safety is just a marker on evolving ground. But forecasting fundamentals shifted too. Yet next came a quiet revolution. Storm warnings got a major upgrade. NOAA rolled out impact-based alerts, better surge guides, and sharper satellites able to watch storms minute by minute. Decisions get made faster. Communication is raw and unvarnished because warnings need urgency, not pleasantries. Are we really quicker now, or just noisier? Hit subscribe for every tick of the clock, because warning culture only works when people listen. But numbers still mask what numbers never measure, and the toll in lives, dollars, and time remains unfinished. Katrina killed well over 1,000, left hundreds of thousands displaced, and caused upwards of $100 billion in damage. Jobless families changed states. Kids changed schools. Neighborhoods emptied out or reinvented themselves. Each line in those headlines is a gap in a family tree, a block rebuilt in a new style, a vote cast from a new zip code. Numbers flatten what was lost. Which metric actually honors the memory? Smash subscribe before the last loss slips unnoticed past the anniversary. But every lesson needs a physical legacy, and the city shows both scars and strength. Look for Katrina's legacy with your own eyes. See raised walls, new pumps, the sharpened reflex in evacuation orders and warnings. But see more? The bay grew wider, wetlands chewed up, and neighborhoods still slower to rebound than you'd hope. The new system stands on shifting ground. Safety is stronger, but risk grows in complexity. The next storm's cone will point home soon. You'll be counting the advance moves before the news cycle catches up. Smash subscribe. Drop your take or warning in the comments. And remember, buying time only matters if you use it wisely. Because Katrina's story isn't just about the last storm. It's about every storm still waiting offshore. If you're curious about more flood videos, check out my next video, the deadly mistake that cost 120 lives in Texas. Thank you.